Good afternoon, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome, Whovians, to our instantly after the episode reaction, even though it's probably about 15 hours after everybody else has watched it.
We have things to do on Saturdays. We have said this before.
Side note, I had a friend of mine who had to go through a medical thing, and we were doing Zoom calls to kind of keep him in good spirits and kind of help him through some stuff and whatever. And when they were setting it all up, they're like, well, we're going to do it on Saturdays. And I said, I can't do Saturdays because that's like our one day to do stuff. He's doing fine, by the way. So welcome to our right after the episode discussion. This one is called The Story in the Engine.
Yep.
And I have a ton of emotions after this episode. But how do you feel about this one?
I have emotions too. We were trying to search down the barber because he looked very familiar, and I came across a couple of articles, and people were saying verbalizing the same things I was feeling. So I was like, okay, very cool, very unique storyline, right? A different storyline, not a typical, Doctor Who. As much as they try to change it around, you tend to get a lot of the same storylines. It's been going for forever. So, cool. But the flow or the story of the barber himself, people were struggling with. They kind of got confused, got lost as to how it all made sense. And that's kind of where I was. I feel like I need to watch it 5 more times.
Yeah.
It's probably one of those ones where the more you watch it, the more you're like, oh, I get it now. And it may be that there was some African themes or storytelling in there that we just have never been exposed to. So we kind of struggled with, I don't understand
the
what's going on or the reference. Yeah.
A little bit of the accent. They were in Lagos, Nigeria, was where the barbershop was and stuff, and so that heavy accent, for me specifically, anybody with a heavy accent, I struggled the first time listening to it until I gotta get used to the rhythm and the dialect and stuff like that. And so I actually had to shut myself off from everything that was kind of going on around me, not playing on my phone or whatever. Because sometimes with Doctor Who, you know where the story's going, so you can kind of even with new episodes, you can kind of oh, okay, the Doctor's going to save the day, and so you can kind of wander off a little bit, or not be sucked into what's going on.
Right.
But this one, because the accent, I hate to use it that way, was heavy. There was times where I had to really concentrate on what they were saying.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be that's just a me thing. Even people with heavy Americanized accents with a Southern draw or a Texas twang or New York
English. That one show we watched with the kid, Gangs of London.
Gangs of London. There was a couple times. Yeah.
I mean, that was a good show, but there was definitely some times when the accent, you're just like, what did you just say?
Yeah, I have to put the subtitles on or something. When they first announced that Jodie was leaving, we had a little 10-minute, 15-minute discussion that is on our page about my concerns about who they were going to pick next, and that my main concern was them picking a black man to travel through time. I'm not saying that I didn't want it. I was saying in that video that it from an outside perspective, as a fan, as a Whovian, it really restricts storytelling unless they're willing to step into that conversation of a black man on Earth traveling through time in Earth's history. And they've partially dealt with that in the last season, specifically the episode worst villain until Conrad last week. Where they were all social media people and they were all talking to each other, and then the monsters were coming, and they couldn't function without the
bubble thing over their head.
And ultimately, at the end of that episode, they wouldn't let him save them,
right?
Because he was
other
from them. And if you go back and rewatch that episode, which we have, everyone who was attacked was white.
Yep.
And blonde hair.
Yep.
And so it kind of went past me as the episode was going along until the end, when the doctor has his breakdown. And they addressed it in this episode. I bring all that up because they sat down and said, I've never had black skin before. And so it's been interesting for me to travel through the history of Earth. So I love going to this one barbershop in Nigeria where Belinda said, you're at home. You're with your people.
Yep.
Everybody looks like you and stuff. And she points out that her Nana, I think is what she said, took her back to India on a regular basis for much of the same reason.
Yep.
And I love that they took that moment to have that conversation, because it's a huge concern for me.
Yeah.
It's a huge concern that they are going to shy away from certain storytelling because they don't want to point that out.
Right.
And they pointed it out, and even better, it was a Nigerian who wrote the episode and a black woman who directed the episode.
Nice.
So that's I wanted to look all that up before.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. It very much felt like Russell saying, "I want to tell this type of story. This is not my place to tell it.
Right.
I need to have somebody else come in." And the whole barbershop thing is universal across the page for everyone with dark skin. Like, every barbershop is exactly the same like that. We're just going to sit around and tell stories or talk smack or talk sports or whatever it is. And that's their time to commune amongst each other. Partly because ethnic hair is so different than us, even though my hair's kind of got a little bit of that in it. I bring that up because for a long time, people of color, actor and actresses of color, would actually ask for people who have dealt with ethnic hair in the past.
They still do.
They still do.
Some directors or production companies still do not get it.
Yeah.
And we have heard interviews and stuff with specifically black actresses, just because their hair tends to be a little longer and they've got to have some do going on. That some of them have just written into their contract that they're bringing their own hairstylist with them because they've had, garbage put, chemicals or whatever
and
put in their
fries
hair.
their hair and everything. Yeah. And I bring all of that up because, again, they addressed it. They told the story of during the slave era, people of color weren't allowed to have paper. And so they would get pulled over. They're still getting pulled over. They would get searched or whatever. And so the women would pass along maps by braiding their hair. And I loved that.
Yeah.
That is actually from historically proven, it's actually things.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I've actually heard too that they would weave things into their hair, like strips of, like bark or whatever, where they could write messages in, and they would weave it into their braids and stuff. So that's absolutely something that happened.
I think my emotions for this episode are I'm glad they didn't shy away from all that and actually told that story the way it needed to be told by the right people to tell it.
Yeah.
I love that. B, I love that they I won't say, let me rephrase this. I really enjoy the fact they didn't leave Belinda on the sideline.
Yeah.
It would have been very easy for them to have her sit out this episode and
Yeah.
keep her on the TARDIS.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They included her in the conversation of being of color, and having that whole situation, even though she's an outsider from even this little barbershop, but just
Right.
she looks different than everybody else in Nigeria.
Right.
Obviously, she's light skinned. She's from India, or Pakistan. I think her
No,
family.
she said India.
She,
She
but I don't know
specifically said
if
India.
her specifically, Varda, the actress.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
she's
what her.
from
I don't know what
Pakistan
her.
or India.
Yeah.
By the way, you two stop fighting. Why? You're all family. You just got divided by a line on a map.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite episodes of the Jodie era, is the partition episode.
Yeah.
That's such a good episode.
Well, and that's kind of what this is in a way, because for us, and we admitted this when we did the review for that episode, this was the partition was a story we had never heard. That's not something they teach in American history, or at least not when we were in school. And so it was super enjoyable to learn about that story. We like to learn about other cultures and other cultures' history. And so this was kind of the same. I enjoy kind of experiencing that other culture, but obviously you would feel weird. Like, I mean, as a white woman, but as a white person, wouldn't just wander into a
random barbershop in the middle of Nigeria.
Yeah,
on a back alley.
But I felt cool to get to experience kind of what that atmosphere and all of that. Again, I just feel like I'm not 100% clear on what the Barbers. He was the storyteller for the gods, they didn't appreciate him.
And that was my C. My C was ultimately I'm slightly confused about A, who he was, but B, his motivation. To me, he sounds like Gore. And they reference the MCU and they reference Thor in this episode. But he sounds like Gore the God Butcher.
Yeah.
And he wants to kill all the gods.
Because they didn't. Well, for Gore, the gods let his daughter die.
Yeah.
And for this guy, he was saying how he just wanted to be acknowledged or recognized for all of his work. And so I think that meant gathering stories, but I'm not.
Yeah, and I think that's would be one of those times where we need to go back and
telling the God story.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's going to be one of those times where when we go back and I just realized I have my phone, so I'm going to turn the phone off, the volume off. I think that's going to be one of those times where we go back and rewatch it. Maybe we'll put the subtitles on and we can have a little bit better understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
But for as we sit right now, instantly after the episode, his performance is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the idea of, I just want to be recognized for the work that I've done for people.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that telling stories fueled the machine on the World Wide Web, on the
that was funny.
On the web. What's with Russell and spiders?
Spiders, yeah. And I kind of feel like, I mean, they made multiple references in different instances of slavery, and I kind of almost wonder if it's an allegory for enslaved people just wanting not just obviously they want to not be enslaved, but being recognized and thanked and appreciated and paid for the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of in a
and that's very much how
way.
he felt. He felt very much that he got taken advantage of and didn't get didn't get his whatever recognition or pay or acceptance by the gods or anything, like all of that stuff. And it's definitely an allegory for slavery for a very long time. And even after slavery was ended in the States, they still didn't pay them full amounts. Go watch Sinners. They talk about that in Sinners a bunch.
Yep.
I I want to love this episode so much because it's such a unique story.
Yeah.
They did such a unique, different thing for Doctor Who, or just storytelling as it is. But I'm questioning a lot of how we got there in the end.
Yeah.
I'm not upset with those who were trapped in the barbershop, or the doctor, or what was her name?
Oma?
Oma? No,
Oma.
Oma was the barber.
No, Oma was the woman. Omo. Omo.
Talk amongst yourselves.
I looked at it multiple times. Because he even, because Belinda says, you need to tell me about Omo. And he's like, oh, that's another story.
Yeah, okay.
Because obviously...
Omo is the barber. That's him. The guy who owned the shop. That's Polka Dot Man. I think ultimately, with them all forgiving him, I think that's.
Yeah, you're right. Omo is because his name is on the shot.
I think forgiving the barber who wanted to get his recognition. I think I'm okay with all of them forgiving him, and because he entrapped them to power the machine to go kill the god. Part I have, I'm okay with them forgiving him. I just think it all kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow a little too quick, maybe. Because they got through the maze, they got to the heart of the machine, it opened up into essentially the Tree of Life is what it looked like with the heart
in it. Yeah.
And his acceptance, the barber's acceptance of opening the door to allow everybody out before the doctor blew up the machine, that's a very Doctor Who resolution. Mm-hmm. It's after, when everybody's in the street and they've been freed, not one of them stopped for a moment and said, "How dare you do this to us?" All of them very nicely said, I understand. And then Omo gave the shop to him.
Yeah.
And I think that resolution is okay. I want one of them to just say one of them be like, "How dare you?" and walk away.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, "We'll talk to him."
Actually, the guy, the kind of buff guy with the wife that he hadn't been married to very long.
Yeah.
He kind of got set up that way to kind of be a little bit of a jerk at the beginning. So that could have worked.
And the doctor forgiving him is very much a doctor thing to do.
Yeah.
I was totally okay with that.
Yeah.
I want to say her name was Obiana. See, this is what happens when you're not helping us at all, IMDb.
We're not. No, it says Michael.
Oh, it does say Michael. It was Michelle.
The goddess. So she has met
that's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah.
So
fugitive doctor.
I'm going to go with Obina.
Sure.
I'm going to go with Obina. There's no photos, so we're going off the seat of our pants. That scene where they shifted from one shoulder to the other and the fugitive doctor was there.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to bring this up. So important. When they introduced the fugitive doctor during Jodie's time, the fandom had a hissy fit.
Right.
And the fandom had a hissy fit because this is a doctor that we didn't know. They had a hissy fit when the War Doctor was introduced. Right. It just happened to be John Hurt so it wasn't like...
Guess what? This show is timey-wimey.
Right.
And we can be going out of order at any point in time.
And the idea that they introduced of the Timeless Child, a lot of people butted up against.
Yeah.
And even us. Even we were like, I don't know about this. But now that we've spent some time with it, and now that this in our incarnation of showrunner and doctor has embraced the idea of the Timeless Child and maybe put some more story beats kind of things
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense. So the fugitive doctor showing up for me is hugely important because it means they have other stories that they want to tell with all
Yeah.
of that.
Well, and I knew that because they had talked about that she's the actress that plays the fugitive doctor is going to be
Joe Martin.
That she's going to be in this season.
Yeah.
So I knew that they were going to fill it out, but it almost reminds me of Star Wars, right? So you get this kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come in later and kind of fill in all the stuff around it
Yep,
that
that's
makes
one of the
that
reasons why I
story
love Star Wars so much. Yep.
huge
Yep.
instead of just this one little story. So it's almost like that, like planned or not, they have at least been able to, and hopefully continue to be able to, fill in some of that stuff that we maybe didn't necessarily like.
I know that she's done some of the Big Finish stories,
Yeah.
which are not the Doctor Who has a canon. I mean, they do have a canon, but it's so
Everywhere.
it's so everywhere that it's just like everything a Doctor has ever done. Sure. So I know that those exist within the storytelling of Doctor Who. So I was excited, and all I thought was that's what they were going to do with her.
Yeah.
But her showing back up, I love her outfit, by the way.
Yeah.
With the just whatever. But her showing up is so awesome.
And it also means if Nchuti's doctor is saying basically I've never been black before, then that means
She's a future doctor.
Well, that's true. None of them know.
Because Jodie didn't remember her.
Jodie didn't remember her. But that's what I'm saying. If Nchuti has never been a black doctor before, then she is from, their future.
Although with that episode of The Timeless Child where they introduced the fugitive doctor, neither one of them remembered the other.
Right, that's true.
So there's something that happens in there. I don't think it's the Weeping Angel stuff that they did with Jodie, which is really kind of a cool story point. There's something somewhere the Doctor's memory got erased, reset, whatever. So the fact that neither one of them knew each other, but Nchuti, the 15th Doctor, at least acknowledged that the fugitive doctor has happened, makes me question, like, again, it's
because
Tommy Wimey.
he's a direct descendant of Jodie, and Jodie has met the fugitive doctor.
That's true.
Now
that's true.
Nchuti knows.
But he kept saying, like, I think I remember your face, but I don't know why,
right,
what it is.
That is weird, right?
So it's I'm not, this is not a criticism. Like, I love that mystery.
Yeah.
I love that mystery of trying to explain the War Doctor and companions that didn't make it and haven't been introduced yet, and we come back around to them and all that kind of, like, I like that. I like to have those story beats.
We just want them to tie those up eventually.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing with Clara that just, like, the souffle girl and
they didn't wrap a good bow on that.
No,
they
Clara
tried to.
Clara was
She was just there. She was the impossible girl. There you go. That's the answer.
She was the impossible girl, but why is she? Yeah. So they do that sometimes. Just wrap it up. Whether it's 5 years from now or the next episode, just wrap it up.
I wanted a better explanation of Capaldi coming back to be the Doctor and why they made a big deal of why did I pick this face? But he says to hold myself to the mark, and then they moved on, and it's like, I want a better answer than that. Like,
right?
Yeah.
How did that interaction on Pompeii burn such because he's a weenie in that episode? And so how did that burn such an impression?
We're going to the weeds, guys. We're going to the weeds.
Sorry. Welcome to Doctor Who.
The other thing that they did too is when the Doctor took over the heart of the tree, all of the stories of the Doctor that we knew started showing up on all the screens.
Yeah.
And so we got a bunch of Hartnell and Jody and Matt Smith, but I don't remember seeing Tennant. A lot of them flash by really fast,
Yeah.
so he might have been in there, but
Maybe
that would
in
have
the
been
beginning. Yeah, I remember Capaldi, Jody, Matt Smith,
Baker, Hartnell,
9.
Eccleston.
Eccleston.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, they didn't show all of them.
No, they
so-
didn't. But it would have been interesting if they used the 14th Doctor's Tennant and not
right.
10.
Well, but he's both. Both
Right,
happened.
right. So that's why I'm like, I don't necessarily remember which clip if they showed a clip, I don't remember what clip they used.
Right.
So that was, but I love it when they do that. I love it when they remind the audience that they've been the Doctor has been all of these different faces, and they have all these different stories. Especially in this episode where they're talking about telling stories,
Right.
And you have, if you're going to tell a story of the Doctor in the storytelling episode, you need to show all the different faces.
There's lots and lots of
faces,
stories.
and having the fugitive Doctor actually be in the room and talking to Abinda. I'm sure I'm just saying that the whole wrong way, but I'm just going to go with it.
Abina.
Abina. Okay.
Abena.
I just love that they addressed that. It's not just a throwaway that they did to do something. They're addressing it.
Right.
We got Mrs. Flood again. She was in the hospital.
With Belinda.
When Belinda saved that woman's life. I loved that story, telling of the Doctor telling Belinda's story about how she's a compassionate person, and she gave up going to her Nan's birthday party to stay with this woman, and then this woman ended up staying alive because she was the nurse who knew what was going on. The Doctor knows nothing, which is typical of every situation ever happened in a hospital.
That's why nurses are the best.
We're a little biased.
We are.
But having Mrs. Flood be there and like not really interacting with the episode like she did in the last one, but being in the scene.
Yeah.
Like that was like it's like, oh, remember this is going on over here. So,
Yep.
Anything else you want to talk about this episode? I think ultimately we both like this episode, but there might be a need to watch it a couple more times.
Yes.
And we'll do a rewatch of the season, and I wonder how this fits in with everything else.
Yeah. Once we get all done, we can kind of see how everything fit together.
One of the things that did come out before this episode during this week was this was going to do a little bit of rewriting of the Doctor Who lore, and I think what they meant by that is the fact that the fugitive Doctor was there.
Yeah, probably.
And some people were kind of pointing out that Belinda was the only one in the behind the scenes on the TARDIS, and so there was this discussion that she would possibly be left on the TARDIS by herself, and that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, but
that she did get left behind.
Yeah,
it's coming to my head now as we're wrapping up.
I mean, that's happened a bunch.
Yeah.
I kind of expected the TARDIS to maybe take off with her or
Yeah.
lock her in.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that didn't happen.
Yeah. So
and she even points out when the Abena says, "Oh, and he left you behind," and she's like, "No, I let him go."
I told her, yeah. I love Belinda so much. I love her. She's Donna. Won't put up with his poo. She's Martha Jones. That she's wanting just to go home, but she's also wide-eyed and enjoying the journey.
Yeah, because there's a connection that we haven't seen grow because it's been happening, off screen.
Yeah.
Of them. They've got a shorthand now. What took you so long?
Yeah,
and then he just said Belinda, and they
ran off. Yeah,
They don't have to. He doesn't have to spell it out.
One other thing that just popped in my head. We're almost done, I swear. One other thing that popped in my head is when the barber was talking about, I was the storyteller. I did all these different things. I did this, and this, and this. One of the things they showed was the film, the theater house in Miami that
Yeah.
they went to.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking maybe this guy was connected to all of those
of the
toy maker.
Pantheon, I think is what they're
Yeah,
calling it. And so, yeah, that was my
museum,
first thought. But I think this is much more of. I thought he was the god of stories.
Yeah.
What was where I think he was going, and I think he was just the messenger.
Maybe.
Kind of. So
Maybe.
I'm wondering if he comes
Or he
back around and
Gathers the stories.
the story.
Because he said, I've been Loki, and he said a couple, and that's Loki is the
God of
god
stories.
of stories.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And I just love the MCU reference. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments down below. Please be very nice. We are doing this on the fly, live to tape, or live to digital, if you want to put it that way. If you're on the Spotify side, follow us here, share with your friends. If you're on the YouTube side, hit the subscribe button, the bell for notifications. We're uploading all kinds of stuff. Hopefully, I have the sound figured out for this. We missed the week of Andor because I almost threw my computer into a tree trimmer.
A wood chipper.
Wood chipper, that's the word. So please follow us on both of those, and then we're on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're not on Twitter anymore. Blue Sky, TikTok, and I'm writing for the Geeky Area. All those links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.